Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today, I am here in MLB The Show 21, and I am going to be starting a new rebuild in MLB The Show. So basically, you might not recognize the team that I am. I'm not the ace, I can tell you that. But I am the Oregon Beasts, and that is not a real team. But basically, the storyline behind this team's creation is that the Houston Astros were caught, again with cheating, and there were several lawsuits hurled their way, and they went bankrupt, so they needed to cut all their players, and they needed to relocate to, they disbanded the team and then relocated to Oregon, and that is where we are today. The Oregon Beasts have been created, and yeah, basically since they cut all of their players, including their entire farm system, they don't have any players. So what I had to do is I had to form this team entirely from the minor leagues, or not minor leagues, free agency. I can speak, I promise. So yeah, basically I'm going to be using this first episode just as a rundown to, kind of just familiarize you guys with the team, and then we will get into opening day in the next episode. Alright, starting here with the Major League pitching rotation, we have our ace, Cole Hamels. He started his career with the Phillies, had a great time there, then he went to the Rangers for a while, and then he ended up going to the Cubs for a year, then Atlanta, and now he was a free agent, and we signed him as our ace in Oregon. And so now he's a really solid pitcher. He's a left-hander out of California, and he's been a great pitcher over several years in the major leagues. And yeah, I'm very excited to have him as the ace. Next in the rotation is King Felix Hernandez. Hernandez was with the Mariners almost his entire career before he went to the Braves, and then he landed with the Orioles, but he was a free agent, so we decided to sign him. But yeah, so he's a 74 overall, 34 years of age. The dude's not great. Nobody on this team really is, to be honest with you. But yeah, he's another just solid pitcher, and on pretty much any other team, he would be a back of the rotation type of guy, but he is second in the rotation for this team. Right-hander, pretty solid pitcher. Then next is Anibal Sanchez. Sanchez is 37 years old, 73 overall, and he's a right-hander out of Venezuela. Sanchez is another veteran guy who has been pitching in the major leagues for a long time. He won the World Series with the Nationals, and he ended up becoming a free agent, and so we signed him here, and he is now our third guy in the rotation, and yeah, he's another guy that's just, would be a back of the rotation dude for other teams, but for us, he is a middle of the rotation type of guy. Next is Homer Bailey. Bailey's 34 years old. He's a right-hander, 73 overall. He's another guy that's just, okay pitcher, and he was good enough to make our starting rotation, so this is where we put him. He will be he's not going to be around for very long, along with the rest of the guys in the rotation. I don't see a single one of these guys in the rotation going for very long. I plan to take the farm system that we have, which I will show you guys in a bit, and build them up to be the future of the pitching rotation. But yeah, Homer Bailey, another guy who is he's had a lot of time in the majors. He pitched with Minnesota last in 2020. And he had a solid ERA, 3.38. He was pretty good, but when you look at the past couple of years with Cincinnati, and he had really struggled for several years. So yeah, he will hopefully be able to bring back what he had in Minnesota for us this year, and we'll see how he ends up doing this season. And finally is Andrew Triggs. He's a 67 overall, 32 years old. He's a right-hander out of Tennessee. Triggs has had an interesting major league career. He hasn't been at the major league level for a whole lot of time. He spent the majority of it with Oakland, but he never really pitched all that well. I've used him in a rebuild before. I didn't put it on the channel, but it was just a rebuild I did for fun. And he was decent there. He pitched for a little while there, and he was pretty good, but Yeah, so he is going to be I'm hoping that he can just have a solid season. He's, a D potential, 67 overall, 32 years old. He's only going down from here. So I'm hoping he can just kind of hold that spot in the rotation for a little while we let our minor league guys develop, and then it'll eventually be taken over by someone else. Alright, next up is the bullpen. So in the bullpen, we have Jesse Chavez, first of all. He's a 37-year-old right-hander, 67 overall. Another pitcher that's just okay. Chavez, he most recently pitched with the Rangers in 2020, and he was really good when he was with Chicago in 2018. He was in 2018, he was really good with the Cubs. He had a 2.55 ERA. But then it just got worse from there as he went up in age. So yeah, I'm hoping that he can bring back some of the magic he had with the Cubs, but other than that, I don't have a whole lot of expectations for him. And then the other lasting relief pitcher that we have is Juan Acosta. Acosta also spent his last season in Texas, and he only came out for 2 games, and he had a 40.5 ERA, which is just terrible, but I mean, it's 2 games, so not a whole lot that can be said about that. And then, the last time he had a good year was 2017, and he's always been a kind of shaky reliever. He's never been terrific, so hopefully he can finally have a breakout season in 2021, but we'll have to see. Next up in the middle of the bullpen is Chris Rosen. He's a 71 overall, 34-year-old left-hander out of Michigan. Another veteran guy. Pretty much everyone in this bullpen is. He had his he pitched 1 game with Atlanta in 2020, 8.10 ERA, and then he had 2 with Colorado in 2019 and had a 36.0 ERA. So he hasn't had a very good ERA for a little while, but he also hasn't seen consistent starts since 2018, or not starts, just appearances. But he pitched a little bit with Chicago and Colorado. So yeah, I'm hoping that the guy can, do something with this opportunity he has with the Oregon Beasts, and we're just gonna see what he does. But it is nice to have his left hand, another left-handed pitcher in the bullpen. Next up is Tim Collins, a 31-year-old left-hander, 67 overall out of Massachusetts. Collins has been a decent pitcher over the past several years. He had 9 appearances with the Cubs in 2019, but that was the last time that he pitched. He had a 3.12 ERA though while he did pitch with them, and he was with Washington. He had some consistent appearances there. But the last time he had a full season of consistent appearances was 2013. So it's been a while since this guy, was a dominant force. But yeah, Collins he's been a solid pitcher when he has pitched. It's just he hasn't done much of that. So we're hoping that he can show some of that flash that he did back in the earlier days of his career. And but it's not looking very good for him. It's he's a D potential at 31 years old, so he can only go down from here. Next up is David Hernandez, a 35-year-old right-hander from California. He's a 71 overall. He's a guy that's had, he didn't have a very good 2019. He had consistent appearances, but he had an 8.02 ERA, which is garbage. But he was pretty steady the 3 years before that, and he got consistent appearances. So I'm hoping he can bring some of that back. He spent his last 2 years with Cincinnati and then just wasn't on the team in 2020. So we'll have to see if he can bring back what he was doing on his first, in his first year with Cincy, and then back when he was with Philadelphia as well. And then we have our 2 setup men. First, we have Tyler Thornberg, 32-year-old right-hander out of Texas. Thornberg is a 71 overall. He's another guy that's just he's been okay. He only had 7 appearances for Cincinnati in 2020 and had a 3.86 ERA, which is good. But you look back at his 2019 season, he only had 16 appearances with Boston, but he had a 7.71 ERA, and then the year before that, 25 appearances with them with a 5.63 ERA. But he was good up to that point, wavering in a couple years, but he's been in the league quite a while, and he's just another veteran guy that we're hoping we can get a little bit more out of before our minor leaguers start coming up. And then next up is the other setup man, Ty Buttrey. Buttrey is a 28-year-old right-hander out of North Carolina. He's a 73 overall and a B potential. The dude's only been a major league pitcher for for less than 2 years. So the guy has a little bit of MLB experience, and he actually has some sort of he hasn't reached his ceiling yet, and he's not on the way down, and which is something you don't really see in my bullpen at this point. He is just he's got a little bit of potential. He could eventually do something if he just continues working at it. So yeah, he spent his entire career to this point with LA, and he's just with the Angels. He had a 5.81 ERA in 2020, but that was only over 27 appearances. But then he got very consistent appearances in 2019, 72 games, and he put up a 3.98 ERA, which is pretty solid. So hopefully he can bring that back this year. Next up is Shane Green. Shane Green will be our closer this year. He is a 77 overall right-hander, 32 years old, out of Florida. The dude first came up with Detroit, and he was first up with New York, but he got his first consistent appearances with Detroit, and he was really good there. He was really good there during the 2017 season. It wasn't as good in the 2018 season, but then he went to Atlanta and was really, really good there for a couple years. But now he was a free agent, so I decided to sign him. And I'm hoping that he can still have some left in the tank. He's honestly done better towards the later end of his career. But yeah, he's another guy that I'm hoping that will perform the bullpen. So yeah, that is the Major League bullpen at the moment. It's not a very good bullpen, and the starting rotation isn't that great either. So we are going to check out the Major League lineup now so you can see what we've got going on there. Alright, so for the Major League lineup, our starting center fielder will be Emilio Bonifacio. He's got good speed and good reaction time. He doesn't have the greatest of arms, but not all, a good majority of the guys in our outfield do not have very good arms. So Bonifacio is going to be the starter in center. He can play a lot of positions. He's 35 though, and a D potential at 64 overall. So, he can only go down from here, which stinks, but it is what it is. But he does have a switch hitting bat. Now, one thing you'll notice as I look through this lineup, we've got no lefties, and I wanted to get some, but the free agent market in MLB The Show 21 is very limited. There is not much of anyone there, and I was only going to sign people to the major leagues that were real players. I did sign, the minor leagues are mostly players that do not really exist in real life, but I wanted to make sure that this first major league team was made up of real players. So yeah, he is going to be our starting center fielder, and I'm hoping, and he's also our leadoff guy because of his speed and his stealing ability. And he's, his bat doesn't play all that well. He's not the greatest hitter on the planet, but you never know. He could pull off a pretty crazy season this year and maybe be a solid leadoff hitter for us. Next up at second base is Logan Forsyth. Forsyth is a D potential 65 overall, 34-year-old out of Tennessee. The dude hits righty, and he's another guy that's up there in age. He's way past his prime, but this dude was the only option we had at second base, so he'll be the starter there. He doesn't have much speed, but he's got a little bit of contact and great discipline at the plate. So the guy, he's hit okay. He was with Miami in 2020, and he only hit 118. He's never really been a high average hitter. He's more of a fielding guy. You can see his fielding stats are much higher than his than his actual batting stats. So hopefully, he can just be a guy that's in the field and can make plays for us there. That's why he's at number 2 in the lineup, because he's not expected to be a great hitter. He's just expected to advance that first runner to second base or further. Next up in the number 3 spot in the lineup, our starting right fielder, Ryan Braun. Now, Braun, I personally am not a huge fan of the guy. He cheated. He was on steroids for a couple years, and I'm a Cubs fan, so I don't like the Brewers players just to begin with. But, Braun was another one of those options that was available. I cannot deny that he is still a solid player. and, you know, we needed his bat. So I put him in right field because his glove isn't the greatest. He doesn't have all that much speed. But you look at his bat, he's got 74 pop versus right. He's got good contact, 74 pop versus left. Oh, shoot. 74 pop versus left, and yeah, then he's got 68 power versus right. So the guy can hit really well, and I think that's going to be a very useful asset to us as a new team who don't have very much. But next in the 4-hole is easily our best hitter on the team, the DH, Edwin Encarnacion. Encarnacion has 88 power versus both right and left. He's a right-handed hitter. He's 38 years old, so he's definitely on his way out of the league. He's been in it for 15 years. So, you know, the guy cannot field for anything. So that's why I've got him at the DH spot, and he will only be playing DH. He will not be playing first base at any point this year. He's got great powers. I think he's going to hit a lot of home runs. He's not going to hit for very high average, but he's going to hit probably the most home runs on the team, except for maybe like Ryan Braun, who might beat him out. But yeah, Encarnacion is definitely the best power hitter in our lineup. He's got easily the highest stat in that category, and I don't know, we'll have to see what he can do this year. But yeah, this is that Encarnacion, veteran guy with loads of power still. Next up is Yoenis Cespedes. Cespedes is a great player in the field and at the plate. He's another one of our top hitters. I'd say our big three are definitely Braun, Cespedes, and Encarnacion. So yeah, Cespedes he completes that. He's 35 years old. He's a right-handed hitter out of Cuba, and he's got solid power and contact versus both arms. He's got really good fielding stats with an 80 overall arm. He's got really good arm strength. You know, his plate vision though is not the greatest, but yeah, in the time that he has played, he was with New York from 2000, pretty much 2014 up to 2020. And he only hit 161 in 2020, but he only appeared in 8 games and had 31 at-bats. He didn't play all that much. And he's never been a very high, average hitter. But, you look at here in 2017 and in 2015 to 2017, he was hitting in the high 200s, while he was also hitting, 30 home runs in 2 of those years. So I'm hoping that he can bring some of that back and hit for, maybe, either average or home runs, or maybe both. So we'll have to see what he does, and he's definitely going to provide a great glove in the field. Next up is our catcher, Tyler Flowers. Flowers played for the Braves, and he's 35 years old. He's a right-handed hitter out of Georgia, and the guy, he can hit pretty well, but his glove is great, but he doesn't have much of an arm, so he's not going to be throwing guys out on the bases, but he's pretty much going to be able to stop anything that, and he's going to be able to make good plays in foul territory and all that, and his bat plays pretty well too. He's got some solid hitting stats, decent power versus both arms, and decent contact versus both. Great discipline up at the plate. He's hit for just mid 200s average over his career, so he's never been a terrific player, but hey, he was the best option available at catcher in the free agent market, and hopefully he can have a sort of breakout year at 35. Next up is our starting first baseman, Brandon Dixon. Dixon is much better than Encarnacion in the field, but when it comes to the actual bat, he's not nearly as good. I mean, he's solid still. He's got decent pop and decent contact, but you look at his plate vision, his discipline, and his clutch, and it's just it needs a lot of work. He's been with the Tigers. He's a very young kid, but he's 29, but he has D potential, and he's a 62 overall. He's only going down from here. So I don't see him playing for a whole lot of time in the majors. For us in the majors, I don't know how long it's going to take our minor league system to develop, but for right now, he is our main guy. Next up is our starting shortstop, Christian Colon. Colon is he's a 65 overall D potential, 30-year-old right-handed hitter out of Puerto Rico. And he's got okay fielding stats, but his contact is definitely his main focus at the plate. He's got very good plate vision, good discipline, and good clutch. But his power is just in the dumps. He cannot hit homers at all. But he's got good speed. He's gonna be a contact hitter, bottom of the order type guy. And, he might have a solid season. He's only been in the majors for just over 3 years. Well, he came up in 2014, but he's only played about 3 years of baseball. And, he in 8 games with Cincinnati in 2019, he hit 500, which is okay. But then you look at 2020, and in 11 games, he hit 130. So he's never really been a high average guy. Definitely his best 2 seasons were his first 2 seasons in the league, but yeah, he hasn't done a whole lot since, and hopefully he can, he still has a little bit left in the tank. He's only 30 years old, and maybe he can, have a breakout season this year. All right, next up is our 9-hitter, Eduardo Nunez. Nunez will be our starting third baseman. He's a 66 overall, deep potential, 33 years old. A lot of the guys in the order, if you couldn't tell already, are in that range. They're in their early to mid 30s. D potentials, and in the mid 60 overall range. And yeah, Nunez is not going to be a very good hitter. He's pretty solid at third base, and he's got pretty solid speed stats, which is why he's at the bottom of the order. But yeah, he's not the best of hitters. He's got really good play vision and clutch, but his discipline is terrible, so he's not gonna be able to check swing very well. His contact's just okay, and his power is pretty much in the dirt. So you're not going to see this guy be hitting a bunch of homers or anything, but Eduardo Nunez has been a solid player in the majors for a long time. He's been in it for 9 years, and he's been in the higher average area, high to mid 200s average throughout his career, so hopefully he can put on some of that for us. But now let's take a look at the bench. First up, we have our backup catcher, Rene Rivera. Rivera he's 37 years old, C potential, 68 overall. He's a right-handed hitter, and he can play a little bit of first base too. He's got some okay power, and he's great. He's great behind the plate. He can field really well, but yeah, he's not the greatest at the plate. He's just okay up there, and he can throw the ball really well from behind the plate. In the majors, he's been around for a long time, and he's played with the Mets the past several years, and he's been on the decline. He's definitely approaching the end of his career. I don't know how much longer he's going to spend with us here, but yeah, hopefully he can bring out some of the higher averages we've seen throughout his career. Next up is our backup infielder, C.J. Chatham. Chatham is a 25-year-old right-handed hitting, C potential, 63 overall, out of Florida. He's got great fielding stats. The guy can play the field like nobody's business, but his speed is pretty solid, but his bat just does not play very well. He's not very good at the plate. He has pretty low to mid 40s stats in almost every category, and he's never really spent all that much time at all in the majors. He played a little bit for the Phillies, but it's so little that it doesn't even show up on the stats page. So he hasn't really had much of a career, but maybe he can do something here with us. Next up is the brother of our starting center fielder, Jorge Bonifacio. So the older Bonifacio, Emilio, had a more successful career when he was with the Cubs and Royals in the early 2014 range, 2014-2015 area. But Jorge Bonifacio has had more of a career in later, in more recent times. He's definitely been more successful. He actually started playing with the Royals originally, and that was where he played for a little while, and then he went to Detroit in 2020, and he hit 350 over 5 at-bats in 2019 with the Royals. He didn't spend a lot of time there, but he's been a career just mid to low 200s hitter. But he's got some solid attributes at the plate. He can hit pretty well, and he can field really well. So we're going to have to, and he's also got very good speed. The reason I have him on the bench is just because he's a guy that you know, he's still got a lot of time left in the majors, and some of the more veteran guys, I want to put them, you know, starting because they don't have as much to learn about the majors. They don't have, you know, they know the ropes, they know what they're doing. And, you know, Bonifacio, he's got some experience, but I think that, you know, he needs to sit on the bench for a little while and then eventually maybe make it into the lineup. And then finally is our other backup outfielder, and he can also play catcher. It is Mark Zagunis. Zagunis played a little bit for the Cubs over a couple years. He had 36 at-bats for the Cubs in 2019, and then he had like a couple sprinkled in here and there over 2018 and 2017. He hit 400 over 5 ABs in 2018, but, you know, that's only 5 ABs. That doesn't really show much. And then in 2019, he had 36 at-bats, but he struck out 16 times, which is insane for 36 at-bats. He's never had a home run in the majors, but he somehow has some solid stats at the plate. But yeah, the guy can field a little bit. He's just an okay player. He's, you know, I don't expect him to be a whole lot. He's mostly just going to be a bench guy for probably the rest of his career. But yeah, that's what he is looking like right now. So that right there is our major league lineup. I'm going to show you guys a few prospects from our minor league system, and then we are going to finish this video. Alright, so the first guy I would like to talk about is Neville Lyon. This guy is the best prospect in our organization. He is our closer in AAA. This guy's a closing pitcher. He's a 74 overall, 18-year-old with A potential, so his ceiling is just incredibly high. The guy is going to be he's going to be the centerpiece of our bullpen. He is easily the number one guy in our farm system right now, and I see this guy being, you know, a very solid pitcher over the next few years. I think he, you know, I don't want to ruin his development, so I don't want to rush him up to the majors. I want to give him a few years in the minors and then bring him up. But yeah, this guy was an absolute steal in free agency. Next up is our number 2 prospect in the organization, Reynell Delgado. Delgado is an A potential 19-year-old switch hitter from Florida. He doesn't actually have all that great. Well, his power stats are pretty garbage, but he can hit for contact. This guy's going to be like a future leadoff hitter. He's got good speed, really good in the field. And yeah, he's definitely a future leadoff hitter. And I think he's honestly the future at shortstop for this team. He's a really solid player, and yeah, I'm very excited for what he's going to do. So next up is our top pitching prospect our top starting pitching prospect, and that is J.J. Goss. Goss is a 19-year-old A potential 62 overall out of Texas. The guy has solid velocity, and I think that his velo is going to continue to go up as he progresses through the minors. But yeah, he's only 19. He's got plenty of time in the minors. He's at AA right now, and we're going to continue working him down there as he makes his way to the majors. But yeah, I think once he does make it eventually, he is going to be a very good player. Next up is another one of the future pieces of our bullpen, Tyler Kolek. Kolek is a 25-year-old A potential 61 overall out of Texas. The guy has, you know, really solid velocity for his overall, but he has one major issue. You can probably see it right now. It is his walks per 9. He walks so many people right now. So in the training tab, I do have him working on that. So he's going to be, you know, trying to reel in the walks and make sure that they're not going out of control like they have been. But yeah, he is he's going to be great, I think, once he just once he gets the walks under control. I think the guy is going to be a really solid pitcher for us in the bullpen. And yeah, I'm very excited to see what he can do in the majors. So then we have our future at catcher, Chase Vala. Vala is a 24-year-old A potential right-handed hitter out of Louisiana. And he's a 67 overall right now. So, you know, at 24, A potential, 67 overall, he is going to easily be the best catcher in our organization in a couple of years. So yeah, right now he's got some solid power, and I think that we can keep that going up, but his plate vision's really bad, and so is his discipline and clutch. So I think we work on that a little bit, get his contact up a bit, and he can play the field really well, and he's actually got okay speed for a catcher. But yeah, I think this is going to be another one of our top prospects as this rebuild happens. So next up is our future at first base. Now, we don't have nearly the type of depth at the first base position as we do across the rest of the team. Lionel Billingsley is our top first base prospect. He's 19 years old, out of Jamaica. He's a C potential right-handed hitter, and he's a 60 overall. Now, his power is pretty bad. His power needs a lot of work, and he's honestly, he's not the greatest. He doesn't have the greatest potential in the world either. So he's going to be a bit of a project, and I don't even know if he's going to eventually be our future at first base. I think first base we might have to look for in trades, in the draft, but right now he is the best prospect we have at that position. He's solid in the field, but that doesn't matter a whole lot at first base, but his contact is really good. He can hit the ball really well, and he just can't hit it very far. So, yeah, that's Lionel Billingsley, and I'm hoping that, we can find someone as a better alternative to him, but for the moment, he is our number one prospect at first base. Now, our number one prospect at second base is another terrific prospect, Luis Galvez. He's a B potential 62 overall right-handed hitter, 20 years old, out of the Netherlands. He's got contact for days, and he can steal bases like nobody's business. The guy is fast. He can hit really well. His fielding needs some work, and his power definitely does. I don't know which one I'm going to focus more on. Right now I'm focusing on power because I would like to get his hitting kind of fully, balanced out, and then work on the fielding a little bit. But for the moment, Luis Galvez is our number one prospect at second base, and he is definitely a very good prospect. Next up is our future at third base, Chris Delgadio. Delgadio is a 70 overall right now. He's a B potential right-handed hitter. He's 22 years old, and he's from Cuba. The guy can play first and second base along with third, and he's got really good pop and contact. He can play. He can hit really well. He's fast, and he just needs to work on his fielding a little bit. But you look at those other stats, and it's like the fielding doesn't matter if you can hit this well and run this fast. So the guy's going to be great when he gets to the majors eventually. He's 6'2", he's a really big guy, and I think that he is going to be terrific in the majors. So next up is our current best prospect at left field. Now, the reason I don't say future at left field is because I do not know if he will be our future there. He's 24 years old. His name is Jared Mosher, and he's a B potential 65 overall. He's a left-handed hitter from Iowa. He's got really good contact and not much power at all, but he can steal bases. But you would think that with all that speed, he might be able to play the field a little bit, but he really can't. And he's just, I don't know, he's just lacking in a lot of places, and I think we might look for a better alternative than him, but for the moment, he's our best prospect in left field. So then we have our top prospect in center field, and that is Bryan Zappata. He is 19 years old. He's an A potential 59 overall left-handed hitter out of the Dominican Republic. Now, he's going to be a project. The guy is going to take a while to make it to the majors, and we might not see him make it in this rebuild. But, his fielding is terrific. His speed is great. It's just he's lacking in a lot of areas at the plate. He's currently at the Double-A level, so I'm hoping that he can, eventually make it to, he can eventually make it up to Triple-A and then farther from that. But for the moment, he's still got a ways to go. And then finally, we will leave off this episode looking at another one of our top prospects. I would say this guy's in the top 4 or so. His name is Clifford Avila. He is a 63 overall, A potential 23-year-old right-handed hitter out of Mexico. The guy has contact, he's got speed, and he can play the field. The only thing he's lacking in is power. He just needs to work on that a little bit. And when you're in right field, having the best glove isn't super required. So, I'm not really, too terribly worried about that at the moment. I'm kind of just trying to optimize his power as much as I can. But I think once I get that done, he is going to be a terrific player for many, many years. But yeah, guys, that is our team as of right now. The Oregon Beasts are a new Major League team. I'll give you the first look at our calendar. This is our schedule for the first month of the year. We have a series against Oakland, 4-game set that we will start in the next episode. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and I will see you guys then. Peace.